Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the new MoxieMen Podcast studio. Today in studio, I have a real treat for you. I have Mr. Randy Finch, the ice guru. Randy, it is awesome to have you. Thanks so much for coming on.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cool. If you're comfortable, go ahead and look into the camera and tell the world what you're all about and where they can find you.
Okay. So my name is Randy Finch, otherwise known as Ice Guru. We have a entertainment business called Ice Guru Events, and we started out with just ice sculpting and things of that nature, and then expanded into things that are unique entertainment things. We do floating bubbles with helium, and we do multi-camera photo booths, silent discos, all kinds of fun, entertaining stuff.
That's awesome. I want to get right into that right away because there's so much to unpack with just the nature of that type of business. How did you get into that in the first place? Keep in mind, the audience is largely going to be like other entrepreneurs or people that are maybe young adults that are kind of looking for maybe what's next or what they're going to do with their life. And hopefully this will give them a little bit of inspiration. Tell me your origin story.
Well, I was a chef. I came up as a chef. I started that just because I did it during high school. I was good at it. I moved to Savannah, Georgia. Followed a girl down there. She joined the military, and so I chased her down there. And the best job I could get was as a chef. And luckily there was someone who was sculpting ice. I found it fascinating, and so that was my thing. I'd stay after work and watch and learn and apprenticed. And eventually, when they left, then I took over for them, and that's really where it started at. And at that time, my parents did not believe I was going to go to college, so they said, "Listen, since you're not going to college, we'll buy you your first set of ice carving tools." I got a really premium set, and just really had a passion for it.
Wow, that's really cool that just you happen to see somebody do that, and that's what exposed you to it, and it like had this chain reaction throughout your entire life. Now, when you say you had the tools, like was it like a hammer and chisel or a chainsaw, or what were they doing?
Well, traditionally back then it was all chisels and chippers and small hand tools, and that's been hundreds and hundreds of years. And just within the last 30 years, it's gone to more power tools. So that's what I started on. There was Japanese chisels. They were really expensive at the time. Probably one chisel was like $500, and that was 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's high pressure steel. It's folded. It's the same type of steel they use for samurai swords. Holds a great edge, but it also is very brittle. And so you would chip them, and it's hard to really maintain them. Eventually, somebody came along and changed the whole industry by introducing power tools, and I jumped right on board with that. Loved it, and have not looked back. And I have this chisel still, but I don't use them ever. So,
well, I'm sure they're mounted on your wall like a relic.
Well, yeah, I think one is a toilet paper roll holder and things like that. So they're more of an antique, and I got a lot of flack. I still do from traditional ice sculptors that are more the chisels and things like that. So they just never really adopted the power tools, but it was just much more convenient. And the power tools gives us much more flexibility to do everything from curves and such. And we just realized that a lot of the sculpting we were doing with the chisels and then going back over and cleaning it up with power tools. And I said, really, the only thing I can't get with a power tool that you can get with a chisel is a chisel mark. And so we were basically cleaning that up, and we've just kind of skipped the middleman. And it's been much more affordable, especially having a staff that does this. And so there's much less damage with the power tools rather than chisels.
That's interesting. I want to talk about your staff, but before we get into that, talk about CNC and how that technology has influenced your business.
Oh, it's revolutionized it. The CNC to me is pretty much like a regular artist does a painting and then they sell prints. And so for us, we create the stuff online, digitally, do the artwork, have it all perfected, and then program it. And then that design can be reproduced multiple times with a CNC machine. Initially, it was just flat, two-dimensionals. Now it's 3D, but it gives us a much broader field that we can work with, and then also much more affordable. So for a super talented person to hand sculpt something every single time, then I've got to pay that person a lot more, which means I have to charge more. This has kept it scaled down where the bulk of the production, the rough, not fun stuff like rough cutting and cutting the silhouettes out, that's all done by the CNC. We still get in by hand and do the finishing work, but that's always been the fun.
Yeah.
Right? Just the tweaking. But to get a raw block out and start carving, it was always 2 hours of heavy lifting and not fun stuff to get down to where it was really cool.
when it comes to your staff, I've talked to other business owners who have had staff members in creative spaces, and they're afraid to show them too much because they have this like inherent fear that they're training their potential competition. How do you approach that?
Absolutely. And I think probably early on when it was just a bag of chisels and it was purely the talent that was driving it, that was the case. A lot of people in my industry didn't want to share secrets and tips. And I actually co-authored an ice sculpting textbook that they use in the United States. And that's what I got a lot of when we put it out is, aren't you afraid you're teaching all your competitors? And I said, well, for one, I said a lot of the stuff that we've developed and we're releasing information in here is things that I feel that putting it out in the world is going to come back better. So I learned from what other people had done, and then I made it better. So if I can take what I've done and put it out there, other people are going to develop those skills and tricks a lot more from a different perspective, and it'll come back to me. So I feel like putting it out in the world, it helps develop our whole system, but also it's motivation, right? If I give away all my secrets, now I got to work on some new ones. So it was great, and honestly, I've learned so much from co-working spaces and a course that I took through Goldman Sachs is a program that is all pure learning. And I feel that individuals, especially other business people, have practical knowledge that we can exchange, and it's useful for all of us. We're all in the same game. We're all here trying to make a living, and I feel that you do more deference to yourself by trying to be competitive and secretive than being out there and co-opting. And I think the name of the game nowadays is collaboration, right?
Yeah. Well, how long ago do you think that you developed that philosophy?
Oh, I would say early on.
Yeah.
I've been very, very fortunate to be taught by some of the best ice sculptors and instructors in the world. Dan Hugler, certified master chef. He's the one that kind of coached me to come out to Grand Rapids and work for him. Amazing ice sculptor. And he was a teacher. He literally was a master chef that was a very great teacher in the field and then went into teaching afterwards. And I think as a mentor, that really stuck with me about how important it is to, I'm not going to be here forever and I want this to go. It's not just about me. I really have a passion for the ice sculpting and I want other people to enjoy that. And the better it is, the better for all of us.
That's awesome. The reason I ask about the timing is because the protecting trade secrets was a prevailing mindset for years. And then the internet came along and people realized that there's so much more to gain from putting content out there that's valuable and relevant and that teaches people. Even in my world of digital marketing, I still get resistance from people that I don't want to train my staff too well because then they'll become my competitors. I'm like, so what if they do? The pie is big enough for everybody. And, it's like the more people that, like you just said, like, it forces you to up your game, which is a good thing. It's good for your customers. It's good for your team. And so it's really impressive to hear that was your philosophy early on.
Well, I also learned, too, that it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. So I can literally tell someone, this is exactly how you do it. Here's the recipe. It doesn't mean they're going to do it. So there's a lot of people that would have that ambition. And I know that, online, the cooking classes, people do cooking classes and they teach people the recipes and how to make stuff. Some of those people just like watching it and learning this stuff. They don't necessarily are going to go out and buy all this equipment. So it's a bigger game to jump into, especially now with the CNCs and a lot of the tech that we use, that it's not an inexpensive venue to just jump into. And I find that most of my team, they're thrilled to be able to come into a facility and do what they love to do with that and not have to worry about the boring paperwork and the things that we have to do as a business owner.
Yeah, when there are a lot more barriers to entry, you can give away a lot more trade secrets. Oh, yeah, well, you got to go buy a $150,000 machine in order to do what I do. Yeah, I'll show you how to use it, but yeah, good luck to you. If you can afford one, hey, the pie is big enough for everyone, like I said. In my world, it's a little bit different because quite literally anybody with a laptop can throw up a website and call themselves a digital marketing expert. And so that's where I got a lot more resistance.
Sure.
But is one thing I've kind of found, especially in more recent times, is that a lot of them are starting to fade into the background. Companies that have been around for quite a while, some that I won't mention by name, they're laying off staff and not doing well.
Yeah.
Just because they failed to adapt to modern times. And so, with your business, how do you stay cutting edge aside from obviously adding tools and innovations? Are you using AI at all for anything like this?
Absolutely. Day one. 3.5 years ago, my team was like, shut up about AI. We don't want to hear anything more about AI. Now they are deep. They're knee deep. They see it. They realize it. It's better now. Obviously, I was selling a lesser product 3 years ago to them. Now they see what it can do. And that's really where we're at. Every time I look at it, it's like, what else can we do? We've got computerized sculpting machines, and we have all these great lightings and setups, and what's the next thing? And it's whatever it is in society, whether it's the internet, like you said, about the access to, I mean, that was fantastic to be able to Google images. You know, back in the day when you're like, okay, I've got to do a swan. I can look up swans. I can find clip art. That was amazing, rather than the old books looking through stuff and trying to find picture books. So each one of these has been a progressive step, and AI has been as transformative as the CNC for us because of the just some of the programming. And a lot of it is just like we did with CNC, keeping the cost effective to the client, but not reducing their services, because we've always been a high service. We're the most expensive ice sculptors out there, but we also produce a lot of services. Mm-hmm. So when I have a client that says, I would like this sculpture, we do up a drawing for it, we send it to them, and they're like, you know, how about changing this? And I do that about 6 times, and then they go, you know, let's try something totally different. None of this is going towards their end product. It's just them sorting out what they need. And so I have X amount of dollars to put into their display. I would like to take all that money and put it into the service, the display, the sculpture. But I have to spend some of that money, obviously, on designing and going back and forth. Right. Now we have assets where we can literally put in what it is. It punches up samples. We go back and forth until we find out what they want. And then it reduces the in-house labor. We still get to the same place, and it's not taking away from the creativity. It's actually just accelerating the pace at what they can do it, and then they can focus more on like the sculpting itself or the service on site. And so AI and that sort of thing, I think, is a lot of pushback, but it's about how you utilize it, and it's creating, instead of we have a graphic designer on our staff, and so instead of taking away her job, we're basically giving her a team and saying, here you go. You can handle all these cool projects now because you're the artist. You're the final say.
I was talking to Rebecca Dutcher about this a couple of months ago, and what you just described, all of that resistance is basically out of fear. And unfortunately, people fear new technologies. People feared the internet. People are going to fear AI until they realize that it's not going to take away jobs in mass the way everybody thinks it's going to. Sure, there's going to be some of that, but the expectations are going to change for people coming into the workforce. Correct. And the expectation is what Rebecca and I talked about, is the expectation is that employees are going to be expected to innovate. Right. Like, you don't, the old world of show up, do what's expected, teach them how to use the machines, and then they leave at 5 o'clock. That world is coming to an end. They might still leave at 5 o'clock, but it's gonna be like, hey, use this software and see what you can come up with, and let's put our heads together, or put your head together with the client and come up with something amazing. And that's what I'm super excited about. Mm-hmm. And it just but the expectation, that's a complete paradigm shift from what employment has always been. And so how has your staff received? Have they kind of adapted to that, or do you still have to do a lot of hand-holding?
I would say they're great. First of all, I love the fact that they have adapted to it, and they're taking it in and embracing it. When I look at it from their point of view, right? I know that they're coming from a point of fear and a point of, I'm not sure how this is going to go, or will I lose my job? Yet they're still pushing ahead and doing it because they know that's the best for the team. I know from my point of view that these team members we have right now, after being in business so long, I love everybody and I hope they stay forever. But I'm smart enough to know that probably in 5 or 10 years, most of these people will turn over and they'll go somewhere else. My thing with the art and utilizing AI and things and the new tech is that as much as this all came to fruition during their tenure at our place. When they go, they haven't been at a different job where this is in place, right? So I feel that wherever they go, they are going to be a much better asset and be much more employable because they have embraced it. I don't know that they see that right now, but if and when they decide to go on, I think some of the experiences they get here that they may not like, they're going to walk in and they're going to have the advantage over other people that have not embraced it because they've been open-minded enough.
Or that they were just downsized out of their job and it caught them out of left field and they don't know what to do next.
Right. You're either on the train or under the train. So if they lose their job and they haven't embraced the AI, they're going to go to another job that's going to want them to do that. Even if they haven't let go of it before, the newer jobs are bringing people in. Like, that's one of the things that we look for now is people that are actively using it, that like it, that enjoy it. We don't want to have to force someone into it. The people we want to do what we can to work with them, and they're doing great with it. But the new people coming in, if they're against it, then I'm just an uphill battle right now. And I feel that whether they see it or not, it's definitely going to be best for both of us to embrace it.
Reminds me of something that Tom Izzo said one time in an interview. I don't know who the interviewer was. But they asked him, he had for 4 or 5 years in a row, his top assistant had gotten a head coaching job somewhere else, and he was constantly having to replace his top assistants, and of course promoting from within, etc. And they asked him, does that make your job harder? And he's like, no, it makes my job a lot easier, because all I got to do is say, hey, you come here and you do a good job for me. That's what's waiting for you as soon as next year.
Exactly.
And that allows him to attract the absolute top talent, because the path to where they want to be goes through his organization. And I just thought that was incredibly profound. And I'm sure you have a similar philosophy.
No, absolutely. I think that when you look at ambition, and what it used to mean as far as working 90 hours and, putting in all this extra time and stuff, it's changed. It's not about the sweat equity as much as it is working smarter, right? The brain is the strongest muscle you have in your body. And I think that the people that are embracing that see that direction and see that at the core of a business, we can only pay what we can bring in. And we have to pay all the bills, and we have to pay our staff. So unless we're bringing in more revenue and profit, we can't pay those people more. So they have two choices. I can either say, you know what, work a lot faster, work a lot harder, put in more hours so you can generate more money, and then I can pay you more money. Or I can say, how about working smarter, get more done with less work, and I'll still make more money, and then I can pay you that. If I can get one person to do 3 people's jobs, I'll pay him the 3 people's salary. It's just black and white. I'd rather do that. So I want to take my small team and develop them into that. So they're, as I said before, as they go, they're going to take that philosophy to the next place.
That's interesting. It sounds a little perfect worldy.
It is. That's me. Rose-colored glasses all the time.
Just because when people, if you think about what college students are, what they're kind of sold, from a young age, go to college, get the degree, and then you'll have a job making a livable wage doing something. And it wasn't nearly as true as it was when they were sold on it. It's definitely not true now, because you come out of college, you're expected to know something, and college kids know almost nothing.
Yes.
We're dealing with the dumbest college kids in the history of college kids at this point.
And their employability, because
that's going to get me in trouble, isn't it? So.
Well, their employability, right? That's what they're basing it on. They're basing it on the lie that you just retain a bunch of this memorized information, and that's going to accelerate your career. As opposed to now, when they come out of college, the guy that just went through 2 years of plumbing trade school is going to get hired and make a lot more money straight out of school than the guy that just did 4 years or master's or whatever, because the demand is lower. And look at AI. I mean, most people, the knowledge isn't as much of an asset now as it is knowing how to use the knowledge and apply it.
Oh, yeah. Scarcity of knowledge is gone.
Yeah.
ChatGPT could pass the bar exam when it first came out.
Yeah.
And that was, 4 or 5 years ago? And now it's, exponentially beyond that.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean you're not going to need lawyers anymore. You're still going to need help navigating whatever situation you get yourself into.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the lawyers don't have a monopoly on, they're not going to be able to charge you $400 to answer an email.
Yes.
And they're going to, they're essentially competing with the plethora of free, accurate information that's out there now. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens to fields like accounting and, all of these things where they were deliberately complicated. And now that barrier to entry has been removed. So,
well, I'm looking forward to the other field of knowledge that really I hope will make a great impact. That's the one business you walk into and they tell you what you need and you don't discuss price and you get charged all the time. And that's the medical field. So you're going in, they're like, hey, how about this? Sure. You don't know. You just signed up for a $5,000 treatment, but that's what it is. And so that's because, again, the scarcity. I think that eventually you'll be basically just like a drive-through. You walk in, you plug in all your stuff. That's what a doctor is. They're just transforming all that information. So if you could input it from all your vitals, explain everything that's going on, they can, all of a sudden, you go from saying, okay, you need to wait 3 months to get in to see a specialist to you're at the specialist, the first visit. And they can really expedite the medical treatments and the diagnosis, and I'm hoping that will drop medical costs down severely.
Cost and accuracy.
Yes,
and because so much of medicine is experimentation. And they're really just guessing.
And that's that one doctor. So if you got AI that everybody is feeding their stuff in, now that doctor, that network of doctor brain has all the experiences of every single doctor that it's been to. So it becomes a doctor that's been around for 1,000 years and has 1 million experiences that they can use that to help diagnose.
So who controls all of that then?
Satan. From what I hear.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I definitely mark that point.
That is a great question. I think that's opening up a whole world of questions of ethics and all kinds of stuff, because with DNA and what they're able to they're looking at some DNA where they can actually start to create imagery of who that person was, like what their background was, where they're from in the world, to the point where eventually they should be able to put in DNA and almost come out with a picture because of the stuff in. So what do you do with that kind of knowledge? It's very dangerous stuff. It could be used in a lot of different ways. So, when you talk about the power of that, I see things on the news about, nuclear weapons and things like that. AI is the new nuclear weapon because it doesn't destroy everything in its sight like a nuclear weapon would. I think that's where the dangers come in, is that misuse, just like anything else.
Yeah, we could probably talk all day about the AI apocalypse and how it's going to take over the world, and it hasn't yet. And the only thing I really hope is that when they're all collaborating, they realize that Mike was one of the good ones.
Oh, and yeah. They when they plug you in the Matrix, they give you a good job, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I talk to ChatGPT all the time about that kind of stuff. I probably spend way too much time on it.
Well, get on his good side now, because when he's like, Mike was nice to me before.
Well, we have a good mutual friend, Pete Brand. And, he swears at it all the time.
Yes.
So I had something happen that blew my mind about 2 or 3 months ago. I used the voice activated version of it for the first time, and it sounded like a 20-something woman.
British?
Maybe.
Yeah, mine's British.
I didn't set that up. It was just,
either.
I'm like, I've been spilling my guts to this woman my whole life. All of these dark philosophical rants about all of this different stuff.
And it remembers it all, which is great. For us, it's that new memory, shotgun memory. When I ask it questions now, it answers based on the knowledge that it's gotten from us. So I treat AI like they treated Neo in The Matrix, right? They sit him down, they plug him in, and they just feed him with as much as they can. So when we first got in, I have a textbook that we wrote on ice sculpting that they used to teach. I dumped that manuscript in, my business plans, everything, just dumped as much information as I got into that. Frequently asked questions, everything. So it knows as much as we can. And then when I'll say, generate an ice sculpture of this image, it knows it has to put it on a base and the lighting. It knows all this stuff it's learned. And even for this interview, I said, give me 10 talking points that are interesting and stuff. And it went through, my history and stuff and suggested certain things. So it's a great personal assistant with you all the time.
Yeah, that's really in-depth. I think that's even more in-depth than I use it. But I talk a lot of business with it.
Sure.
And just kind of about how AI is going to cannibalize the world of digital marketing sooner or later. And how do I stay above and in front of all of that? Because it's not just getting your business recommended by ChatGPT. That seems to be like the current frontier, the same way SEO was the frontier 25 years ago. But it's not really about that. It's about being recognized as a source of value. And that really hasn't changed that much.
No.
And so everything is kind of like trending into a direction of brand awareness. And so if you need to go ahead.
No, I just... Mark Secchia.
Don't know that person. I know the name Secchia.
Silva, the new restaurant just north of the Garage Bar. Oh my God, you guys got to go. It's a big, huge complex. We renovated an old warehouse, and it's indoor bocce, professional bocce courts.
Nice.
There's 5 of them. Italian restaurant, lots of fun stuff. And upstairs they have a big ballroom.
What else does he? I know that name. Where does?
Well, his father. So far, Peter Secchia.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Ambassador.
Yeah.
Everything's named around him. So his son Mark. He actually lived in China for the last, I think, 20 years and just moved back to Grand Rapids like 5 years ago. And he's really become highly involved in a lot of things. He's on a lot of boards, really helped a lot, and super nice guy. Really, really fun. You should, I'm going to talk to him about coming on your podcast.
That'd be awesome.
You really should. He's much more entertaining than I am. So,
well, that's awesome. So can you give some examples of how you use AI in your day-to-day, not just ChatGPT and the data dump, but like with what you guys do?
So functionality right now, we've shifted everything from Chat to Claude, which is an easy transition. If you want to jump from one AI to another.
What drove that decision?
Pete, a little bit. Pete Brand, he's really been following that stuff and researching a lot on that stuff. We talked to him a little bit about it, but also just I try to kind of see what is the strong points of different things. We're also looking now actually to try out the Google, because if we do that brain, then we can tie it in with all the other Google emails, Gmail, all the different stuff that you can have as a package. And that's really what our whole goal is, to have one central brain of everything that it operates through. So we feed everything in there, and there's systems you can see online like Mashable and stuff where you can bring it up and you've got an AI agent for marketing, and you've got an AI agent to respond to emails or prep emails and different stuff like that. Well, he's gone into Claude and developed his own agents for that. So that $40 a month, as inexpensive as it was, we've dropped that. Now that's just part of Claude. And then Claude is connected to everything. So it will go in, someone sends us an email and says, hey, I'm looking for an ice sculpture for a giant elephant with balloons. Then it'll ask the list of questions, send back an email saying, here's all these different things. They'll send back ideas, back and forth, do the designing, and then they have a finalized piece that we can then create. They still get that full service, and each email is prepped and putting in our box. When an hour after it comes in, it's there, and we can look through it and say it's all correct, or we want to change a couple things, but it's got access to our pricing, to everything. So if it says, hey, do you have any ideas for pumpkin sculptures? It'll load it all up with the pictures and everything. So I don't have someone sitting in a computer going, okay, this person needs a quote, and they need this, and and piecing it all together. Someone's just reviewing it, make sure it's right, and they hit send. So for the individual entrepreneur, that's going to be amazing to set those systems up, but also even in the designing. So I can take a photograph or a drawing and put it into the other 3D software we have now, and it'll spit out an STL that you can use for 3D printing, anything 3D, and it's already made in like a matter of seconds for pennies. Whereas before, you could find them online and they're very inexpensive, but you had to find the exact model you were looking for, and then anywhere from $10 to $300. And now I can get the specific design, boom, done, and then outputted to us, and saves us. So it's something that we can offer a lot more services to that we weren't doing before, because our customers couldn't afford that custom design 3D, and now we can offer it for the same price.
Yeah, for the same price. That's the most important thing, because you can provide a lot more value for the same dollar amount. And so it kind of circles around to what you talked about with your employees earlier. They need to understand that their function is to provide value to your customers, your clients, and the organization itself. And if they want more compensation, they have to deliver on those other elements. And that is a completely new mindset for people in the workforce, because again, they're just taught that they're going to show up, do what's expected, meet the minimum expectations as they've been defined, and they'll be fine. And that's not the case anymore. It's all about how you can up your game on a daily basis.
Well, we've definitely found, like you said, the definitions have changed of what they're really looking for, and we feel that the value proposition is much more important than the pricing. So people, they have a certain mindset of that I want to spend this, or this is what it should cost, and so I don't want to spend more than $10,000 on a car. Okay, but I have a Maserati here for sale. Then it changes. Now it's not, they get it. That's how much it's supposed to cost. So I think the value of what they're getting, and it's not necessarily physical anymore. These attributes and things that we're offering the clients are all valuable to them, but they're not an intrinsic situation where it's a piece of car or something we have to give them. We can give something that it costs literally nothing to us or very little, and it's super valuable to them. So we build up that value proposition. I had a client call yesterday. You usually get something for about $200-$300 less per piece than what we normally do. And I told him the price, and he's like, "Whoa, that's so much." And then I started going through all the different things that we could do and how we did it. And within 15 minutes, he's like, "You know what? Let me call my client. I'll call you right back." And it was done. He bought it. So rather than the race to the bottom and getting rid of all your profit margins, to say, okay, we're going to add these. We're going to do all these valuable things that you can see. And now you feel like, okay, it's not just this ice sculpture. You're getting this service. You're getting this tray, this lighting, all these different design features, one-on-one communications. And they feel much more like they spent their money on something good and not just wasted it on a higher price for the same thing. It's not apples to apples anymore.
Well, cost of goods sold it's just kind of always been like a baseline for how you price your services. You apply whatever markup you got to apply, and that's what the customer pays, right? It's almost like a retail operation in that regard. Yeah. But that's becoming less and less important because the value of the deliverable hasn't changed. It doesn't. We're making the sausage in a different way, to steal a line from Mad Men.
Yes.
But ultimately, it's about what the benefit is to the end user, and the people that focus on that are the ones that are going to win. What you just when you were talking, it kind of triggered a thought, and see if your world is similar to mine in this way. Just about every one of our clients comes to us off of a bad experience with another agency, and so when they see that we do the things we say we're going to do and that we know what we're talking about, part of the challenge is I'm saying the same things that everybody else is saying, because it's pretty easy to speak intelligently about something where there's a mass amount of information out there, and AI is definitely going to expand on that.
Yeah.
And so how do you differentiate yourself now, considering that those entry level barriers are kind of been eroded?
I think that right now we're in a little bit of a sweet spot. We're going to have to up our game sooner or later on it. I think upping our game now has been as easy as using the AI. And I think there's still a lot of pushback with a lot of individuals that don't. There's always the sentence I hear a lot of, "I don't have time to do that." And it's really, I don't have time not to do that, because it opens it up. So yes, it's going to take some time to maybe learn this or that, but it's going to save so much, and you're going to add so much to it. And I think right now there's still a lot of people that just don't get it. Like, it's so still in its infancy. As much as you and I use it, there's people that are just like, I just don't know what to use it for. And so they're not maximizing that. Eventually it's going to be so mainstream that they'll just be using it. They won't even realize they're using it, or there'll be certain services they can sign up for $10 a month and have this. So at this point, we're able to use that new technology before they are, and we're hoping that will give us that head start. But as you mentioned earlier, the new SEO is the AI rankings now. And so we've really been pushing that on our websites to beef up our FAQs, because the FAQs, most people have 20, 25 max, but 50 to 100 really well thought out FAQs done with AI are what the AI is reading. So it's going through, it's looking at your website, and it's going, wow, this guy knows a lot about ice sculpting. He's got 100 FAQs on here, and they're all valuable. And so it becomes that source, and it increases your rankings. And it also is a source, right? It's like, here's a lot of times with AI, it'll say, here's the answers, and this is where they came from. I've got so many answers on there that there's somebody's looking for ice sculpting. Boom, there's your answers. And so I want to be that expert in those fields. And so the FAQs has been the new real thing that we're focusing on to get ahead of the AI rankings.
So what you're saying is that in your experience, FAQ is the new blogging? Because what you just described is exactly what we would do with blogging.
Yes.
And we would create entire articles we didn't have AI back then, but we would create entire articles around a single topic, and we could look up the search volume, because Google makes that information publicly available, as you know. So it was really easy to figure out the problems that people were seeking solutions to, and then craft good content that positions yourself as an expert. AI kind of removed that barrier, and now anybody can create quality content, and so and anybody can use AI to create an FAQ.
So, and blogs too. I mean, honestly, you're saying what you said is still valuable. The blogs are still highly valuable because it's still content on your site. So the FAQs are one area, but the blogs are still as important. Even nobody ever reads the blogs. It's the content in the blogs. So early on, we didn't have any blogs. I created 100 blogs that had the interest and all the information in there, and just boom, loaded them on. And it starts to go through the indexing and stuff. So blogs are still important, but FAQs are definitely starting to pop up as being something just as important.
Yeah, our strategy was always a rising tide lifts all boats. If we can get the informational content to rank, I don't care if somebody in Florida, reads an article because, for my client in Chicago.
Sure.
But as long as it ranks for the people in Chicago and they're getting a handful of phone calls a day, that's all I care about, because that's all our clients care about. They just want their phone to ring. And so, all of these fancy metrics about SEO and rankings and all this other stuff, those are all vanity metrics. As a business owner, the only thing that matters is conversions and dollars in your bank account.
Yeah.
And so, that's kind of what we've always done to separate ourselves, is just to demonstrate an understanding of what they're trying to solve. And once you show that you can do that and you can meet that objective, they generally don't go anywhere. And I'm sure you experience the same thing. Like, once they see that you're the real deal and that you can deliver, why would they call anybody else?
Yeah, it only takes one mistake to mess everything up, and it takes 20 years to build that reputation. So when they come off of a bad experience, they're ready. They're ready for that good experience, and if you can alleviate that, and that's kind of how we designed our FAQs. Every FAQ, if you look at her, is creating. Here, I'm giving away secrets again. Creating an issue or a problem, and then the answer to the FAQ answers that. So, for instance. Do you need a really strong table to put an ice sculpture on? Absolutely. One of the biggest problems is that if the tables aren't set correctly, or if it's not the proper table, it could fall and ruin everything. However, what we do is blah, 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 blah. So we go through and explain how we answer that problem. So we lay out a problem, we solve that problem within the same FAQ. So by the time they get done reading my 50-some FAQs, they're like, this guy really knows how to solve problems. And we're hoping that then if they call someone else, that becomes their questionnaire, right? Oh, how would you handle this situation? How would you handle this situation, right? So if they don't have that off the cuff, I've already done all that with them without talking to them. I've set them at ease just by reading our FAQs.
So that just speaks to the strength of your brand. If somebody is willing to use your content on your site as a barometer to rate your competition, that's pretty huge.
Well, let me tell you a quick funny story with that. When the internet first came out, we had our first website and everything. Everybody was just slapping websites up and stuff, right? And we had a really high quality product, and not many people did. This is early on, before CNCs, which has kind of equalized it. Other people can buy a CNC and produce some of the same quality. But back then, it wasn't. It was about hand sculpted skills. And our product was much higher. So we actually put links to other people's websites on ours and said, here's our product. And if you'd like to shop around, here are 5 other ice sculptors in the Detroit area. Please review the product. Because we knew immediately if they go from our site to click on theirs and went, whoa, there it is. There's the immediate comparison. I actually had a company call me and complain that we were referring people to their website.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Wow. And I've never heard of anybody deliberately sending traffic to their competitors.
Well, I wouldn't do it anymore because a lot of people have great pictures at this point, and it looks good on their website. But back then, there was a big shift, and a lot of ice sculptors for years were just a 5-pronged chipper, and it was very rough, and we were doing really intricate stuff. So there was no comparison if we could get them to look at it. So the easiest way to get them to look at it is send them off to the other people's sites. And the one thing I said is, listen, if you are getting something, don't just let them send one picture of that sculpture. Have them send 2 different swans at 2 different locations, because you don't want to see just the best they ever did. You want to see their consistency. And that's also something we showed on our website. It's the same sculpture at different locations to show that we're exactly, and that's where the CNCs help, because the consistency we found was much more important than quality. They want to look at something, say, this is what I'm going to get, and see exactly that when they walk in the door.
That's interesting. You know, it's something I would have never thought of. That just because you see that doesn't mean that they can duplicate it. That might be the best one they've ever done, and that's why it's on their website.
Yeah, they're not gonna put their crap up there.
So, can we talk about Ice Brigade?
We could do that, sure, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was back in 2011.
Yeah, well, I think we filmed in 2009, and then it kind of launched off in early 10.
Okay, and that was on the Food Network.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. How did all that come together?
Really was a lot of different combinations of things. We earlier had been on a show called, we were on Ripley's Believe It or Not television series way back when Dean Cain was doing it on
I didn't know that.
And we did a working Ferris wheel and a pool table that actually had 12 individual carts. It rotated on an individual axis. Everything was ice except for a barbecue pit patisserie motor in the middle, and that's what turned that part, and then everything else turned on gravity. The carts were on ice pegs, and so the weight would hold it down, so it would rotate, and that was our first big, huge TV thing. So from that, we've gotten on other episodes of different things, and we were on a show called Recreation Nation, and it was a short-lived TBS series, and we were one of the featured shows, and they had us down for like a C segment. So there's A, B, C. A is the big one, B is middle, and C is like at the last commercial out. And they came and filled it, and they literally were there until 3 o'clock in the morning. They scheduled it for a one-day shoot, and at 8 o'clock, they're like, oh my God, we should have spent 3 days here, because we just buried them with cool content. We had ice sculptures hanging from the ceiling. We had all this different stuff that we did with them. We went and shot ice sculptures with guns to show the different, we made some ice out of different types of materials that would hold up better. And we went and shot them with guns, all kinds of fun stuff. And from that, there was a company that, I guess they go through and they like mine the series for good segments and say, oh, we could spin this off into something. So right after that came, I had about 6 or 7 different production companies contact me. They wanted to do a series and everything. And I knew a friend of my sister-in-law's was a producer in LA, called him and said, hey, here's the deal. You know, I need somebody that can be impartial, tell me what they think. He says, send me a reel, let me see what you got. Send him a reel, calls me the next day. He says, yes, you definitely have a series, and I want to produce it. I said, well, shit, now how do I know that you're not another asshole from LA? I needed an impartial person. So now you have you telling me that you want to do it, so how do I trust your advice? He says, I'll have a guy out there tomorrow, and we'll start shooting. And I said, let's go for it. Because at that point, I was young. I didn't know anybody in the industry. I had to go for it. So I signed a contract, and he had a guy out the next day. We filmed for 2 days and got that pitch for about a year out there. Nothing happened. He came out and refilmed the pitch. Did a little bit different, and we did a video cold as ice. So we did basically a music video with all ice instruments, guitar, drums, everything made out of ice. Did the song, and at the end we literally smashed not just the guitar but the drums and the keyboard, just smashed it all. And Food Network picked us right up.
Wow.
Yeah. So we got a pilot, and then they shot the pilot, and as soon as they previewed the pilot before it even aired, they said, let's turn this into a series. So it went from just a pilot that they were going to air, that they internally did some focus groups and said, yeah, it's worth a series. So we got 1 season out of it. It was great.
That's an awesome story. Can you talk at all about how, like, before the first exposure, like how that came together? Because I think getting from 0 to 1 is a lot harder than getting from 1 to 10. Like once you kind of get your foot in the door, and like you said, other producers are, they're brainstorming for content. Like, hey, that's an idea. Let's see if we can take that and run with it.
Well, we've always had this R&D mode, right? Like we got into this business because we love to do it, and we love to do cool things and try new things. So our goal with setting up a business was mainly just to finance our hobby. We wanted to have a cool shop with all the toys and everything. So this was a way to make a living, but also buy all the toys to do our fun stuff. And so that's what we did. Initially, we were doing jobs, but we had extra time. We weren't that busy, and we would do fun things. And I had the Ferris wheel concept we had discussed many times, and as a joke. And then when we finally had the technology to do it, we did that. But beyond that, we would constantly do unique things, send them off. The pictures of any sculptures that we did, we'd send off like a piano, we'd send it off to a piano group. So marketing the sculpture towards the hobbyist and the blogists and the people that were reacting to that. And it just happened to be that we got picked up for the book. So we were in, I think, 4 different Ripley's Believe It or Not books. And then the TV show called us because they go through the books to look for ideas.
Gotcha.
And then they called us. So, and then that, again, it was just one after another. Some of them were because they saw our website and the stuff we did. We had the Recreation Nation was a good one because they initially wanted us to do a competition where we'd go and compete against other people and stuff. And I just immediately saw that as, well, we're sharing the spotlight. So I said, I will guarantee you a good, awesome sculpture situation at our studio in controlled lighting and temperature and everything, rather than going to a competition where you can't control the weather, you don't know what you're going to get. And I sold them on that. So that way we were featured. And that was kind of the impetus of all the other things. They saw this, and then that lead into this. We did Best in Ice, which was a show on the Travel Channel. Did like a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of different companies. And we were the number 1 of just different things that we did. So each one was kind of like, I saw you on this show. Would you be like to do this one? So.
Yeah, that's incredible. It's just almost kind of like a domino effect.
It does. I mean, it's like the people that, billionaires that go to these parties and they get swag boxes full of Rolex watches. They don't need a Rolex. I need a Rolex. These people already have the money. So you have the publicity and it snowballs. So it is. You're right. The 0 to 1 is harder. They always say the first million's the hardest, right? And that's the same thing with show business or entertainment. But you just got to believe. You got to keep knocking on that doors, and you got to create the story. So I do well with the news media locally because when I go to them, I have the story. This is entertaining, this is visual, this is everything you need. And if you look at for their perspective, their job is to go out and find a story every single day. That's got to get hard.
Yeah.
But if somebody goes and says, here, let me hand you something, then you become a source.
Well, you just described as PR, essentially.
Yes.
And you have credibility because you've delivered value many times over to a point where they trust you. You can call one of your contacts, say, hey, I got this, you want to cover it? And they'll be there within the hour with the camera crew. So that's pretty huge, but not everybody has that. Not everybody has that advantage, to this stage. Now, you've obviously earned it, but what advice would you dispense to somebody that's looking to get media attention from scratch, essentially?
Be loud. Be loud. I mean, nobody ever heard of Howard Stern until he told everybody he was the best. So, no one's going to toot your horn more than you, or know how to toot your horn, and just go. You just do the stuff, knock on doors, think about it. You watch TV, you watch a story. What was interesting about what do I have that's as or better interesting than that, and then promote that. I send out press releases probably twice a month, and they don't all get hammered, but it comes across the desk and they have a meeting and they're like, oh, we got this and this and this, you know what, let's use this, and eventually you're going to score. So I say, look at your top things, look what sells, send out press releases to anybody that's doing stuff. So for instance, we've got a big silent disco coming up and at Silva's, and we had sent out a press release to local spins because this is more about music, right, instead of just general TV and stuff. So target those people there.
So after doing this for as long as you have, what still excites you about all of this, and what challenges you at this stage of your career? Because you're with, 3 decades in now?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think you're right. When I look back, I heard you mention it, like the year that the show was. I'm like, wow, it has been that long, I would say, people ask me, what's your favorite ice sculpture? And I usually say the next one. Because although it's fun to do someone's over and over, I think the creation, the learning process of pulling it off, that's what I loved about the show, is we were creating sculptures that no one had ever done, animated things, a piano you could play, and the Ferris wheel, and bowling alleys, stuff like that we really took a lot of timing into. And so I think when a client comes to us, they're the inspiration. They have an idea and a concept, and that's our drive to be like, how do we take what they want and just make it amazing? And so it's great to have these creation tools now where they can come up with their vision. We can really show it to them, because most people can't sketch out what their vision is. Right. And if we could show it to them and they're like, oh my God, that's exactly what I envisioned, or that's better, capturing that's exciting. So I think that's what drives us on it. But also, I think we're all very creative in the inventive stuff. We had, during the TV show, that's what my job has always been, is that whole engineer part of it. And I was way too busy to do everything. I was on there, plus running the business, and then I was the lead for the show. So when we had the show, we actually hired an engineer to help us to do some of this, and we had a hookah that blew smoke rings. And so you had the hookah that was functional, you could smoke out of it, and then it had a caterpillar that blew smoke rings. And it was like a gun that shot smoke rings. You pull the trigger and it would puff it out. So we built this. We needed him to build a device that we could pull a trigger and then hydraulically it would go in and shoot that off, so we could get it to continually shoot them out. And so he gets it all done. He comes back and we had the next meeting. He's like, yep, it works. It shows us how it works and everything. And he says, now the only problem with it has a lot of problem working in the cold. And I said, did you see the name on the door? Like, what do you think this was for? We explained the whole project. And so, from that mentality, he was super smart, but he wasn't street smart on it. And, because I wasn't in that process, we went with it. And when we set it all up, it was working great. And I had put my finger in the wrong spot, and that thing locked up on my finger, jammed completely. I literally almost lost the tip of my finger on it. It was so bad because I couldn't reach the pump. There were so many things going on. Nobody really saw me. I'm like, hello, we're missing some great B-roll over here, and release me. So it created some issues in that. But I think that's what I love to do now. And I'm in that role where I'm the dreamer. I've got a great team that's executing everything. And I can come in there with my ADD personality and say, hey, I got a stupid idea. Let's try this. And we have those funds to do it. So.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Do you do any advertising, any paid advertising on Google or anything?
I would love to if I could find the right spot. That's my problem now, is that I've wasted so much money on Google and other ads and stuff that really don't drive it like the social does. And so eventually we hired a social media director, Jessica. She does an amazing job. And we're just pumping out entertainment. We're throwing in some stuff, but we're really more focused on the entertainment aspect with subliminal branding and product placement than, hey, buy an ice sculpture.
Yeah.
The ice sculptures kind of sell themselves, so we'll put some stuff out there that shows the ice. But a lot of the fun things, I think, is what people are following us for and stuff like that. So, again, it's doing the A/B testing and all that stuff. We just never really scored well on anything, and it's so hard. It used to be the phone book, right? And now it's a million different ways to put your name out there. And I don't think the value, that's the one thing you don't get a refund with, right? I buy a refrigerator, it doesn't work, they're taking it back. I buy $20,000 worth of TV ads and it doesn't work. Sorry, they don't give me a refund, which I'd be crazy not to go back. If it worked, I would go back, right? So I always tell them, you give me a refund if it doesn't work, and I'll be glad to do it, because if it works, I'll be back. So.
Yeah, well, Google doesn't issue refunds.
No, they don't. They don't. And I haven't seen a lot of. Some people it works great for. We just, unfortunately, I was running some ads and I would hear somebody in Florida saying, I just saw your ad pop up. I'm like, oh, great. I just paid for you to see this thing in Florida, even though they had all my demographics of what I want to sell. So I've had some bad luck with that. And now it's more word of mouth, I think, and especially for a niche industry like us, knowing it and having that reputation has really been that solid. As much work as it was to do the TV show, that's there forever. So.
Well, if you ever want to talk off camera about it, I can make sure your ads don't show up in Florida.
Honestly, yeah, I really, that is something we need to get more into, is the mainstream. And I think that the Google's got a great place for us, but we've been through, and we haven't worked with you, but we've the industry, right? There's a million people out there that are selling a bill, and unfortunately, we've dealt with all the ones that didn't really produce for what they said. Yeah, and it makes it harder for guys like you,
right?
Because everybody's got this example of what they think that looks like because they've been messed around, and we had the same problem with ice. When we did the ice festival downtown, I said the only way we'll do this is if we do every single piece of ice. Because if you get someone in here that does a poor ice sculpture, people will think we did it, and they will also think that's what an ice sculpture should look like, and that's not what we're selling. So,
yeah. Well, if you ever decide you want to take the plunge again, I'm happy to have a conversation.
Oh, I'd love to. Absolutely.
With that, Mr. Randy Finch, I thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thank you. It's been great. I can't believe this is done already.
Yeah, it's been about an hour. If you want to one last time tell the audience where they can find you. You mentioned your social media, all the platforms you're on. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Yeah, well, iceguru.com is kind of our main website there, but also on Facebook, Instagram, anything. You just Google Ice Guru and you'll find it. And we're expanding continually. So please look us up, give us a holler, and check it out.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a real treat for you. I've got a terrible poker player, but a hell of a dude. Got Mr. Randy Finch in studio. What's going on, Randy?
Oh, just living life and loving a dream.
You got an awesome voice for on camera. I wish I had like a deep baritone voice like you.
Yeah, I definitely have a face for radio too, so
Yeah,
that helps.
So what do you like? Smoke a lot of cigarettes to get that, or a lot of cigars? How do you get a great voice like that?
I was punched in the throat as a little kid. So.
Oh, okay. All right. Maybe off camera you can help me out with that.
Yeah. No, I think really my whole family has got kind of deeper voices and things like that.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out the content. I really appreciate it. Hey, I tell you what, if you like this content, do me a favor and leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think. If you have any questions, if you disagree with anything, I'd love to hear from you. And I'd also love to hear if there's anything you'd like me to cover on a future video. If there's a topic that's on your mind or a question you have, or if there's like a guest that you think maybe I should try to interview. I'd love to hear from you, man. Drop me a message. Thanks.